Can we communicate with angels? Is it possible to communicate with higher dimensional beings? If so, exactly what does it mean and how can we do it? See, in the olden days, of course, everybody knew you could pray and communicate with the higher dimensions called God, and that was just that. And then there were the saints in the Catholic Church or the angels that we communicated with and trusted that they heard and listened to us. In India, people still to this date, as well as here in Bali, where I am right now, pray and communicate with these beings and expect to be heard. If they themselves don't feel like they can do it, they go to a seer, someone who is trained to place their attention intentionally in higher frequencies and access a matrix of information, much like ChatGPT 3 seems to be able to do, or 4 or 5 or 6 or plus, or Google seems to be able to do, accessing the field of information that we have collectively developed as humans. Now, from that, would you believe it? The police and crime prevention is already utilizing for the last 10 years predictive programmings to see the waveform function of what humans do and where they tend to go, and predict potential future scenarios, and then already place preventative behaviors in place where in the future certain things might be expected, or they expect outcomes even on world political levels to go in certain directions by testing and questioning the field effect of information. Now, where, and we will learn more about that in the next coming years, could such a field exist? With computers, yes, we can think quantum field must be somewhere in the physical. It's some charge. But in 3D, in the world that seems to be made out of oxygen and air, where is that information stored? And how come that some people have the ability to tap into the future and have predictive dreams and can tell where something is without physically being there? See, even the American government has hired and trained people in remote viewing, in seeing things at a distance. They even go into safes and copy each other's blueprints. Now, you wouldn't think that the government would spend their time just doing that for no reason. No, there is such a thing as the informational field, but it takes training. It's something you have to have developed in your deeper core as a belief to even open that part of your mind, usually the deeper superconscious mind and subconscious mind, to access those areas at will. Now, learning how to lower your brainwave states into a deep alpha, even theta realm, getting your body deeply relaxed, and then your mind alert, and raising a part of your consciousness beyond the gamma frequencies, which are 40 hertz and up. Some monks have been measured to be in the upper hundreds, 200. That realm can access, or with those frequencies, we can access realities, informational fields that are beyond the current time-space constraints. See, my husband and I have been working in the field of radionics since 1986. Now, we have discovered that you can talk with plants, animals, humans, at a distance and find out information and send information correctively. Even have plants grow without the fertilizer being given, as though fertilizer has been given. You can go to our website, se-5.com, and read about it in Dawn's book. You can download it for free once you sign up for the newsletter. The newsletter describes to you the content of the book, the research that has been done, and find out in one of those examples, for example, how water has been charged, 2 vases of flowers have been put in, and in time-lapse photography filmed. The one bunch of flowers has been given the information into the water to be sustaining the flower, to make it live longer, to give it more nutrients. The other water was just left as it was, as a control study. With time-lapse photography, you can see how these plants are staying growing, whereas these plants, after a few days, while these are still growing and blossoming, are starting to wilt, starting to wilt. They're starting to wilt, and then slowly these are starting to wilt, the cut flowers. Way longer than the ones who had water without informational charge. Now, how is it possible that we can transfer information into something? It's because this universe exists on the basis of a higher dimensional informational field that we do not yet teach in our regular universities or even schools. Maxwell was one person who developed the understanding of scalar fields, and the scientists of modern days just thought it was too complicated and just dropped it off. But informational fields exist. So now, when you or I learn how to quiet our rational mind and then sharpen our focus to enter heightened states of attention, of awareness, like funneling our focal point into a brilliant starlight. It takes practice. However, you can do it with time. You will be there to see beyond the confines of time and space. And you will be given to live in a world that shines with brighter colors and works in alignment with greater synchronicities than what we are regularly used to. Now, none of us are static. I have my better days, I have my worst days, and maybe my norm is somebody else's heaven, then for me it's my norm, but I have a higher norm above that for myself. And if I'm healthy and have full of access to my chi body, I can sometimes hold focuses like I've described in my books, Wisdom of the Dolphins, Free Like a Dolphin's. Actually, in English, it's called Dolphins, Love and Destiny, or Dream Big, the Universe is Listening, or Aline Learns to Use His Imagination, or the course Living from Vision, or the 365-day course with 365-day inspirations and weekly meditations and monthly meditations, where you learn to hone the stillness and then access higher dimensions, where you enter the presence of your soul matrix at increasingly higher states. It's not like we reach a state and then that's it, yeah? Like my higher self 30 years ago looks very much like I look right now. I mean, I described Dr. Vern Wolf. He said, "Do you have a higher self?" And I said, "Yeah." And instantly I saw the woman dressed in white, my hair like this and my brilliant blue eyes, access to certain states of consciousness at will. That was my higher self then. My higher self now looks like a superimposed super matrix of a yantra mandala, let's just say, a super brilliant luminosity of light, a geometric or plasmic state, and beyond that, a state of intensity of focus that penetrates all time space. Totally different self-image. But whatever it is for you, it doesn't really matter. What matters is that it is one step more than it was before, for you to start feeling that you are in the flow of evolution. That is the fundamental to our happiness. When you feel that you can communicate at will with, and now let's get back, can we talk to angels, with levels and dimensions of informational fields that we give a picture to. Let's say Archangel Michael, right? Does Archangel Michael really have a sword and dressed like we oftentimes see it depicted, blondish white hair, brilliant blue eyes? Or, as I see it, is it a spinning field of intensity of consciousness, for lack of better words, or presence, that we can tap into and ask to impart onto us information that we may need, clarity, strength, something that we may need and wish to express in our life. It's sort of like a blueprint that we can take on. And through that blueprint or that matrix, we then have access to the informational field within the greater field of all that is. We commune through the lens that we assume, and we used to call it angels, saints. You can, in our Living from Vision course, we call it simply an inner advisor, a symbol maybe even, or a person, a human that has certain abilities. And then we access that matrix of information and become one with it. And then we're able to wield the informational power of that state. provided we can get into the middle of it. Now that takes practice. Some days we might be better at honing our focus, some days we may not be. But in any case, it is practicable, and if you wish to live in a higher vibratory world and transcend the boundaries of time-space as they apply to most normal mortals, then start joining the club of walking with the order of higher beings and become the transducer of heaven on earth and live with that certitude that the center of creation is part of your very matrix and is communing through the lens that is you. You are a particular lens, and the universe simply asks you to dream up whatever you wish and to be the brilliance and the love that comes through that lens that you are. And when we expand that capacity, we feel like we're growing. When we hone in our focus to the center of creation, that's when we feel satisfied. And you can do those steps easily, either by just simply getting information like this from a YouTube, or closing your eyes, going into deep meditation, relaxing, and assuming that somehow there is a greater matrix being with whom you can become one and whose informational fields you can embody. The Buddhists did it, Catholics do it, the Hindus do it. They all either embody or commune with a matrix of a frequency that they then suddenly have the power, the ability, the wisdom thereof. If you wish to have it easier, be taken by the hand, join me in my mini courses on my online academy at ilonaselke.online. I have courses for just pennies a day, and some that are a little bit more costly, but that you can study and repeat at least once a year to hone these capacities and make them part of your ability. And if you would like to just start out getting inspired, I would recommend reading one of my books. All the stories, every single word I describe is real and based on truth and actual events. I'm not one of those authors that make stuff up. When I read those people, I go like, they do a disservice to humanity by making stuff up. I tell you what I experienced and how I did it, so that everybody can feel like, I am just as human as you. I cook with water. We all have the birthright of communing with the center of communication, the source code, whatever you want to call it, and to bring through that capacity as best as we can and create the best life possible. We are here to make a better place on this planet Earth as people. So let's share love and light, increase our capacity, and develop greater tolerance, ability to understand and see a greater field, and make the best in your daily life that you can produce. Thank you for being here. Taking the next step, have a look below at my contact form that gives you access to blogs, podcasts, and books, and take a step in the direction of increasing your light. Namaste.